Hi everyone, welcome back to Linda Tina TV. If it's not your first time here, if it is your first time, do consider subscribing and checking out my other videos. So in today's video, as you can already see from the title, I'm going to be talking about being in a multicultural family and obviously raising biracial kids. If that sounds interesting, then stay tuned.
You trying to make me, I wanna leave and you're making, yeah. I try to see the one I need to love.
Before we get any deeper into this video, I'll put a disclaimer out there that I'm speaking from my own personal experiences, which might be different from other multicultural families. Also depends on your location, obviously. I'll put it out there that we live in Europe, Italy, Milan, to be specific. Now, I'll just start by saying that in our home, race has never been really a topic of discussion. It's not something we talk about. It's not something we discuss or we really make an issue of. And that's not because we avoid the topic or because we want to pretend that we don't see color. We see color, we're not colorblind. We just don't give it that much importance. And so even our kids, to be honest with you, it's not something they really think about, at least until now. We have had an episode though with my 7-year-old when he was 6. So about 6 months ago, a boy at school told him that he is not Italian. And this boy is also, he's from a multicultural family, which was interesting. His mother is, I think, Belarusian or something. Anyway, so this boy told my son that you're not Italian because your mom is not Italian and your skin is different. I guess he meant because you're not white, yeah? So my son came home. He wasn't hurt, he wasn't crying, he was just curious because that was the first time he had something like that. So he was wondering, he was confused. So he came home and over dinner he said, is it true that I'm not Italian? So what am I? And we told him why. We asked him why. He said, because there's a boy at school who told me I'm not Italian because my mom is not Italian and my skin is different from Italians. This was the first time we had to encounter anything about race. I had always said to myself, and we agreed with my husband, that we won't sit our kids down to break it down for them that, racism and all these things and, some people are not going to be very nice to you because of the color of your skin. I know some people may have a different opinion, but for me as a person, I didn't feel like it was necessary to sit young kids down and start to tell them about how bad the world may be when they haven't really experienced anything. But I knew that that time is going to come where we may have to talk about these things. And when that time comes, we will talk about it. So that was a perfect situation where we explained to him that you are Italian. Being Italian has nothing to do with your color. Your father is Italian, your mother is Ugandan. So you're actually a mix, and that's why you have that shade of skin color. And then we went a little bit into that. And he left it at that. We've never talked about it again. My 5-year-old has never said anything about race. The only thing is that she wants to have straight hair like her best friend at school. So she's always wearing these fake, like she puts clothes on her head to pretend that she has straight hair. And but it still doesn't go back to race. She doesn't see it in a way of being black or white. She just says, I want straight hair like my best friend. And so race is not something we talk about in our family. I've had some of my Ugandan friends or African moms tell me that you need to instill it in your kids' minds from when they're kids that they are African. One very close friend actually once told me something that I thought was, I don't know. She told me that, something, I feel like you are in denial, Linda. Your kids will never fully be Italian. So you may as well teach them from when they are young that they are African and they are black. Now, I know about the one drop rule, but I don't care. I want my kids to embrace their African heritage and their Italian heritage. And because we live here, my kids actually feel more Italian than African. I have no problem with that. But I want them to understand that they are not one thing. So I'm not going to try to pull them over to my side and tell them you are black and everything. No, they will choose and they will feel on their own as they get older where they are more inclined, where they feel more comfortable, and then they can stick to that side if they want to. But right now, when they're kids, I just want them to know that they are from these two beautiful worlds. And if you don't agree with me, that's totally fine. Next, let's talk about the struggles and the differences that the multicultural families have to, go through compared to families that are from the same culture. One is the food. Obviously, I have food that I love that is cooked in an African way. And then there is the Italian food. Thank God I love that too. But then sometimes I just want to cook my stuff and I want my family to enjoy those things and they are not having it. So we have to sometimes make different dishes depending, because if I'm in the mood for some African food, I'm going to cook African food. And there are times that I have cooked African food and my husband gets into the house and he's like, what's that smell? Because we really spice our food, so you'll enter the house and it's smelling spices and all. So that's something we deal with in our home. Now, obviously, having different cultural backgrounds, my husband was raised differently, I was raised differently, but here we are raising kids from different backgrounds. So sometimes there will be a clash. To be honest, I don't think we've had so much trouble with that because my husband is not the kind of person who's trying to push any Italian values, whatever that would be, or any Italian things that are out of this world onto the kids, and neither do I. But naturally there are things, or there's a way we do things that's going to come out without even us noticing. For example, I'm a typical African mom where like the parents decide and the parents' word is final. Like, don't talk back at me, don't say anything. If I tell you to do something, you're gonna do that. My husband is more liberal, and so sometimes I'm gonna be a little too tough on the kids and he'll be like, whoa, take it easy. So we've had that, but we've not had very big clashes when it comes to how to raise the kids. We kind of have this agreement. We didn't sit down and talk about it, but it came naturally. If he's disciplining the kids, I get out of his way, and if I'm disciplining the kids, you don't want to come in my way. You don't want to get in my way either. So we kind of have that in sync. The other struggle would be trying to keep both cultures present. I want my kids, like I mentioned earlier, to know that they're from both the African and the Italian world, both heritages. And it's a bit hard, especially for me, because we live in Italy, they speak Italian, they speak English, but they don't really want to because they feel like speaking Italian makes them belong more. What we've been trying to do is take them back home to Uganda every year, but sometimes that's not possible with school and work, and also obviously it costs money to take a trip back home with the whole family. So it's been a bit hard to keep the African heritage alive for them, but they know that they have this African heritage going on, and then they enjoy some of my foods. I keep telling them stuff about Uganda and how I was raised, but that has been a little bit of a struggle. But we're trying to keep both cultures alive. Before I wrap up this video, I also want to share with you my fears maybe. So I fear that a time is going to come, which it definitely will come, where someone out there is going to say things to my child about their color, about where they come from, like where their mom comes from or where their dad comes from, that may leave them maybe with a low self-esteem, or make them feel like they have no sense of belonging. So I fear for the day that someone will try to bully them because of their color. Racism is alive, it's everywhere, and at some point people do encounter these situations, and I'm afraid that my kids may encounter those situations before they are prepared to actually face those situations, if that makes sense. My husband doesn't worry about this. There are things that I see that he may not be able to see. He says no, they're not going to have any trouble, because to be honest, right now people really love our kids. I guess because they're different, they love our kids. When we move around with them, they want to talk to them, they want to know them. So he says, look, people love our kids, they fit in fine, they're perfect. And I'm like, well, they are just kids, they're babies, but when they get older, when they start understanding things better, it can get complicated. And of course they could meet that idiot who may say things to them. So I'm afraid of that. And then also I've read and I've seen stories about multicultural people, biracial people who never feel like they belong on either side. So they don't feel like they belong on the white side, they don't feel like they belong on the African side, and so they kind of feel lost in between there. And so we try to keep both cultures alive and to tell them about both cultures, to make them immersed in both cultures, so that they never really feel lost, so that they can choose when they grow up where they feel more inclined, and just have an understanding of both cultures. I'll just end this video here. I'm not sure what I've been rambling about, but if you have experiences raising multicultural kids, or just being in a multicultural family, being a mixed couple, what have your experiences been, and what advice would you give to people out there who are in the same situation? See you in my next video, and be sure to check out my other videos. Bye bye.